when I was in a restaurant, he asked the menu, and he said, Claudia, you should eat this, this, this. All the things he couldn't eat, he wanted me to eat. And he was looking at him like this. Fantastic, how is it? How is it?
One of Leone's favourite restaurants in Rome was Checo Era Carrettiere. If you search amongst the hundreds of photos on the walls, you'll find one of the young Leone together with his primary school friend and musical collaborator, Ennio Morricone.
I think a case can easily be made that Morricone and Leone may be the greatest composer-director collaboration in the history of film. Even as wonderful as the Hitchcock-Bernard Herrmann collaboration was, it almost isn't even comparable to how important Morricone was to Leone and Leone was to Morricone. In fact, it's almost you can't even imagine the movies without Morricone's music.
I came to the movies from the experience of avant-garde music, even experimental. The avant-garde and experimental music often introduces some extra musical sounds. Sounds of animals, bells, whips and anvils, plus other sounds like a whistle and nature sounds. For me, all these things, they were completely normal and spontaneous. They come from my research of the avant-garde, made before I worked in movies. This was my aspiration, and Sergio's movies were my benefit.
Ennio used to come and visit us with little pieces of paper. We couldn't understand what he could read from them because they would be just 3 notes, but maybe they just reminded him of a theme, and he would play it, sing it, or whistle it to us.
Having developed his technique as a filmmaker and storyteller during the Dollars trilogy, Leone set to work on a more ambitious trilogy, this time of epic proportions, starting with Once Upon a Time in the West.
He had a huge canvas on which he worked, psychologically, historically, even in terms of the economic understanding of the development of America, because you know that triptych of Once Upon a Time in America, working backwards, Once Upon a Time in the Revolution, which is in this country known as docusucker, and Once Upon a Time in the West. And if you start with Once Upon a Time in the West and go all the way through, I mean, it's sort of the European Marxist view of the, founding of America at the hands of robber barons and organized crime. And it's not far from wrong, by the way, if at all. The greatest scene he ever directed was the opening sequence of Once Upon a Time in the West.
Morricone took Leone to see a performance artist at work. And this performance artist was performing Symphony for a metal ladder, right? So this guy comes on the stage with a highly amplified microphone with a metal ladder and goes squeak, 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 and does this piece of music entirely with a ladder. The idea being all sounds are music. It's a modern interpretation of music. And they went home and they thought, let's do that with the first scene.
It's like a haiku poem, it's just flawless. I mean, it's extraordinary filmmaking.
Once Upon a Time in the West that I'd always loved had appeared on was appearing on TV, and I watched it, and all of a sudden, now thinking in terms of a director mode, it seemed like almost like a film school, how to direct a movie. Actually, it was truly how to direct a Sergio Leone movie. But as far as like really focusing in on the director as star or the director as artist, the signature, it was all there. I mean, the way Bronson would enter frame, in a close-up in the left, and then something else would come in on the right, and the way the shots, the camera would do this, and characters would enter here and leave there. You could just see it was being directed.
For example, the dolly shot, that beautiful dolly shot in Once Upon a Time in the West, when Claudia Cardinale comes out of the station, goes to the valley. I wrote that before filming, and then Sergio shot the scene. So I wasn't inspired by the movie, but he was inspired by the music, if you understand. That was the great power and strength of Sergio's cinema, because he was looking for a great collaboration with me as a composer. He didn't leave anything to chance. He was dedicated to the music, not only the music, but all other sound as well. That was the power of his cinema.